Hey, you don't know me, but if you've watched challenge videos on Pokemon games, you've likely seen quite the variety of them. From Nuzlockes, to Randomizers, to solo runs, there's no shortage of interesting and unique challenge videos. One such series of videos is MandJTV's series, where he played Pokemon without catching any one of them. However, they always bothered me, more specifically his video on HeartGold. Yes, he did beat the game without catching any Pokemon, but there were actually a lot more Pokemon that he could have used. So today, I decided to dedicate my own run in Johto, where I beat the game without catching a single Pokemon. Can I beat Pokemon Soul Silver without catching a single Pokemon? Let's begin with the rules. 1. I can only use Pokemon that are available without the use of a Pokeball. That means that I'll be relying on gift Pokemon, any trades that'll take what I got, theft, and buying them. 2. If a source of Pokemon is repeatable, I will only be limiting myself to one Pokemon per source. Even if I somehow lose that Pokemon, I cannot get another one from said source to replace it. Though I can use it to access something else like a trade evolution. 3. I must get every single Pokemon available to me, even if I have to do extensive backtracking to do so. I don't have to evolve said Pokemon, but I have to get them either on my team or in my box at some point. And 4, I won't be using any items in battles, other than items that are already held by my Pokemon. And with that, feel free to guess what my final team will be, and let's begin the run. Welcome to the land of Johto. Here, instead of bullies at school taking away your money, your mom does instead. Professor Elm invited me to pick up my very first Pokemon, a choice between Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile. I decided on Chikorita because I love grass types, and for another reason that I'll get to in just a bit. I name him Jasmine, after Jasmine T. Then after a visit to John Pokemon, I ran into some red-headed boy. He talked a lot of shit, but Jasmine beat his Cyndaquil up easily. After talking to police, I found out that I couldn't fit the redhead's name into the character limit, so instead, I told the officer that his name was Edgelord. I then continued along my journey and arrived at Violet City. Here I got more Pokemon in my party. You might be asking, how? Well, you see, there's this guy in the Pokemon Center named Primo, who gives out eggs among other things. You just have to tell him the correct 2 pairs of words per Pokemon. These words are randomly generated, but luckily people have figured out just exactly how it worked, and generously gave it out for public use, via this website that I'll link in the description. Now, how is a regular player without the internet supposed to figure this out? I have no clue. Regardless, these Pokemon that I get are Precious the Mareep, Burger King the Wooper, and the Slugma I name Hobo. And now, back to that reason I mentioned earlier. As you can see, if I chose any of the other starter Pokemon, I would have ended up overlapping types. With this, I have maximum type variety. I then trained this team up in Bellsprout Tower and challenged the local gym leader, Faulkner, the bird trainer. This was a pretty easy sweep with Precious. Faulkner said that he wouldn't let any electric types clip the wings of his Pokemon, but Precious did so anyways. Afterwards, I got a visit from the professor's aide who gave me a 4th egg, but I didn't feel like hatching this, so I just threw it in the PC. Continuing my journey, I made it to Azalea Town. There I saw that Team Rocket had fallen down a well, so I helped them out of this predicament. The whole scenario caused Precious to evolve into a Flaffy. Now it's time for the second gym leader, Bugsy the Bug Catcher. I led with Hobo, who threw a rock at his Scyther, but that only did about 1/4 of his health. However, luckily, when the giant mantis quick attacked, it activated Flame Body, causing it to burn. Unfortunately though, Hobo wasn't able to finish it off, but Precious was. And in fact, she swept the rest of Bugsy's team. And that's 2 for 2 with these gyms. As I was about to move on, Edgelord came back to interrupt me for a battle. First his Ghastly killed itself, and then his Zubat was zapped by Precious. And lastly, his Quilava didn't accomplish anything against Burger King. What a chump. I then traveled over to Goldenrod City, evolving Jasmine along the way. Here in Goldenrod, things really opened up. There are actually 5 different Pokemon available here. Though admittedly, one of them I have to backtrack for. The 3 in Goldenrod directly are Abra, a Sandshrew, and a Dratini in the game corner. However, after about an hour of grinding and Voltorb flip, I decided to only get the Dragon for now, and then I'll get the other 2 later on. I named the Dratini Martha. Next up is a Spearow named Kenya, who I stole from a guy who offered to let me borrow her. With my team all filled up, I then challenged Whitney, the normal type gym leader, who for some reason has less Pokemon on her team than the previous one. This'll be easy. Okay, so she led with her Clefairy, and although it took a while, Hobo was ultimately able to beat it. And then came out her Miltank, and they call this thing a tank for a reason. First I sent out Precious to Thunderwave it. In the process, she eats a Stomp, and then activates Static, paralyzing your Miltank. But then the Miltank removed the paralysis with a held Lumberry, but because Precious didn't get flinched, the cow ends up paralyzed anyway. Goes to show why redundancy is important. Afterwards, I send in Precious, and we enter a battle of attrition. Thanks to her Reflect, Miltank actually can't do that much damage to me, but at the same time, that farm-bred tub of lard is just so naturally bulky that Jasmine can't do any damage to her either. Not to mention, we both have HP recovery moves in Milk Drink and Synthesis. Eventually though, I get an idea. I sent in Burger King to use Rock Smash on her to lower its defense, and it didn't work out so well at first, and so I had to switch in Hobo in to take damage before sending Precious back out. I then tried it a second time, and I managed to get a few more defense drops in. Burger King did also fall, but Precious was able to finally put the cow down. And then Whitney cried because she lost. Now then, moving on, I traveled over to Ecutreak City, and then immediately I backtracked to Goldenrod to get a gift Eevee. Sorry Hobo, you're being replaced. Back again to Ecutreak City, I wandered into the Crush Tower where I saw Edgelord hanging out. He of course challenged me to another battle. Easy peasy. It was just a repeat of what happened last time, except his Qualva smokescreen Burger King so much that I needed to send in Martha to beat it. Thanks to that mess, Burger King evolved into a Quagsire, much to the disappointment of small ants everywhere. And after a bit of training, Kenya evolved into a Fearow, and Fluffy evolved into an Umbreon. With my team ready, I challenged the 4th gym leader, Morty. I sent in Kenya, who took care of his Ghastly and his first Haunter, and then I switched Fluffy in against his Gengar. I had him taunt before sand attacking twice, and that gangly fuck hit a Hypnosis right after the taunt wore off. Luckily, when I switched Kenya back in, none of his Sucker Punches landed, allowing Kenya to get the KO. And last was his other Haunter, who, honestly, I didn't remember until writing this part of the script, but he was able to be taken out easily. With that done, I traveled over west to Olivine City. There I ran into Edgelord again, who called me a wimp despite never once winning a battle against me in his career. Anyhow, the gym leader here was caring for a sick Pokemon, so I went to get some medicine for her, because sometimes it's good to be a nice person. This led me to Cyanwood Town, where I decided to fight the local gym leader, Chuck, the fighter. He led with a Primate, and I sent out Kenya to take care of it. With a couple of aerial aces, the Hog Monkey was dead. Next was his Polygrath, and unfortunately he took out Kenya, and also Precious, and also Jasmine. But luckily, Burger King was able to finish the fight thanks to some headbutts. Now I hope you all weren't too attached to these Pokemon, because they're all about to be sacrificed. You see, when I said that I was going to use every single source of Pokemon, I meant it. And one such source is a gift Tentacruel intended if you ever end up stranded in Cyanwood without a flying or surfing Pokemon. And it's only given to you if you have a single Pokemon in your party and no other Pokemon in your box. This means that there's only one Pokemon that I can keep for the rest of this playthrough, and I decided to make that my starter, Jasmine. As for everyone else, I'm sorry to have to end it this way. Goodbye, Hobo. I'm sorry you never got to have your house. Goodbye, Kenya. You were good, maybe even the best. Goodbye, Burger King. May you find the great restaurant in the sky. Goodbye, Fluffy. You never had your moment. Goodbye, Precious. You did me proud in those first 3 gyms. And goodbye, Martha. You didn't really do much, but I still liked having you around. Well, all I can do now is move on and... Wait, you mean to tell me that includes eggs? You're a cruel bastard, you know that? You telling me that I have to sacrifice the child too? Well, I hatched this thing. Time to end it. Bye, I guess. Hope this was all worth it, Elder God. Now that I had murdered my lifelong friends, I needed to rebuild my team. Luckily, I still had some options. In a nearby house, this guy was harassed by Edgelord, and he gave me his Pokemon, Shucky the Shuckle. It's not good, but I'll take it. Next, I backtracked over to the Goldenrod and flipped the Voltorb table until I got the other 2 prizes available. Now, with Socrates the Abra and Stew the Sandshrew added to the party, it was time for a training montage.
Hey, great work, Mac. Now let's take down the next circuit. Quick feet, Mac. Quick feet. Work 'em, Mac. Work 'em. Left, right. Left, right. That's it, baby. Keep it up, Mac. Keep it up. Kid, hit it. Come on, Mac. Come on. Faster, faster. Come on, you can do it. Keep it up, Mac. Keep it up. Right, left, right. That's it, baby. Push it out, Mac. Come on, push it out. Faster, faster. Come on, you can do it. Quick feet, Mac. Quick feet. Keep it up, Mac. Keep it up. Come on, Mac. Come on. Work 'em, Mac. Work 'em. Hit it, kid. Hit it. Push it out, Mac. Come on, push it out. Keep it up, Mac. Keep it up.
With my team now ready, I took on the 6th gym, Jasmine, the Girl of Steel. This fight was really easy actually. Stu the Sand Slash took out his Magnemites with Dig, and then when her Steelix came out, so did Elder God. He used Seraph on the Metal Stake twice, and it died. I really had a whole training montage just for this next battle to be uncinematic. Ah well. I then started heading east, where I arrived at the Lake of Rage. Here I found a terrifying monster. Nay, a mythical Leviathan. I found the Red Gyarados. And then I killed it. Apparently the thing was caused by some shenanigans from Team Rocket, so me and this other red-haired guy named Lance stormed their hideout. We fought their admin and took out their generator. Edgelord also showed up, but same as last time that I ran into him, he didn't do anything. But man, these Team Rocket guys are real pushovers. I'm certain though that's the last time we'll ever see them. I then trained a little bit before challenging the Ice Gym, evolving Jasmine to a Meganium, a majestic dinosaur who gets a really good Mega Evolution 5 generations later. Now it's time to challenge Price, the Iceman. The fight was almost as sweet. First, Jasmine one-shot his Seal, then two-shot his Dugong, but then arrived his Piloswine. Jasmine Razor Leafed the Woolly Boar, but it lived at about half health as it set up Hail. I knew that Jasmine might be able to finish it, but then it ate its berry, bringing it out of kill range. Seeing this, Elder put itself out and tanked the following Blizzard, and then surfed it into Oblivion. Honestly, a little bit disappointed that Jasmine wasn't able to sweep, but to be fair, this is the Ice Gym. I don't think anyone was expecting him to do so. The fact that he came as close as he did is impressive enough. But as soon as that was done, I heard Team Rocket was causing trouble yet again. So I traveled over to Goldenrod, got into a disguise, and then when I was about to begin my infiltration, the red-headed fuckwit had to come in and ruin everything. You know what? I hate this guy. This rival fucking sucks. After going through a shit ton of grunts with the Pokemon I'm 10 levels above, guess who reared his unwanted head again? I don't get it. Bro shows up, ruins everything, leaves, and then shows up 5 minutes later and acts like I'm the one causing these problems. All of this while he has the gall to challenge me to a battle. On top of that, he doesn't even have a single Pokemon that's fully evolved. Like, dude. Okay, granted, one of those is a Sneasel and the other is a Haunter, but he's still out here with a fucking Magnemite and a Quilava like he's hot shit. He didn't even take out any of my new Pokemon. That's how easy this fight was. In fact, this whole Rocket takeover was lame. Despite there being 4 admins, none of them had fights worth talking about. The only one that I'll show y'all is this blue-haired guy whose name I already forgot about because this fight was actually something, I guess. He led with Houndour, which Elder God flooded. The next was his Houndoom, which actually managed to knock out Elder God, which I'll admit, that surprised me. Must be his low defense to blame. Regardless, Stu came out and took out the Devil Dog, along with the Coughing that he also had. And there we go. Now that the wannabes were taken out, I then moved on to Blackthorn City. Here I got a 6-member to my team. After definitely backtracking over to Goldenrod and definitely grinding out the Voltorb Flip, and definitely evolving another female Dratini, I then traded this over to this girl who in turn gave me a Dodrio. Now that I had a full team again, and after a little bit of training, I was ready to attempt the final gym of Johto, and face off against Claire, the Dragon Mistress. Elder God came out first and set up Toxic Spikes on her team, while her Gyarados Dragon Raged him to death. He then fainted, so I brought out Plato to take out the Serpent with a couple of Charge Beams. Next was their first Dragonair, who was able to take Plato out, and then sent out Doris, who took it out with some secret powers, but not after being paralyzed and in low health, too. Her next Dragonair came out, and I thought it was the one with Fire Blast, so I sent Stu out. Unfortunately, this was the one with Aqua Tail. I then sent out Shucky, who, by the power of attrition, whittled the dragon down with Raps and Rock Tomb, though he also ended up at low health. Last was her Kingdra, whom I had Jasmine come out and fight, and this was a tough one. Her Dragon Pulses hit us pretty hard, but luckily, we're faster so we can heal it back up with Synthesis. Not to mention, with her being badly poisoned, means that I can just survive until it takes out. Or so I thought, because on the turn that I believe that Kingdra was gonna die, due to poison damage, player full restores, meaning that I'm back to square one. However, after some Razor's reliefs and switching outs because of Smokescreen, I think their Kingdra ran out of Dragon Pulses because she kept using Hyper Beam. We take those much easier, so in the end, me and Jasmine won. Claire wasn't really too happy about that, so she sent us to take a test, which I flat passed with flying colors. Afterwards, I was invited to a challenge by the Kimono Girls, and they really weren't that interesting of a fight, just a gauntlet of evolutions, though they did bring me to the World Islands, where I fought the legendary Lugia. Lugia just took out half of my team, but luckily, Stu was able to take it out for the win. Before moving on to the Elite Four, I made 2 last stops to swap 2 members of my team out with. First, I traveled back to the Dragon's Den and got a new Dratini. I named this one Martha 2, now with extreme speed. I also traveled deep into Mount Mordor and fought this dedicated martial artist, and afterwards he gave me a Thai rogue, who I named Brock Sampson from Venture Bros. Though that didn't quite fit, so I shortened it to Brock Sam. I chose to replace Shucky and Doris with these 2 new Pokemon. Shucky for pretty obvious reasons, and Doris because I didn't think that a flying normal type would be as useful as a fighting or a dragon type would be for the next Elite Four. And then, after a long grind, I trekked through Victory Road and ran into Silver one last time, and he challenged me into one last battle. You know what, Redhead? Sure, I'll give you this one last shot to prove you're all that. And he fucking led with a Sneasel. Brock Sam took it out with a single high jump kick. Next he sent out a Kadabra. Plato mogged it, and then he's mogged his Hunter, and then his Golbat too. Then came out his Magneton, which Stu folded like laundry. And last was his Typhlosion with the only Pokemon on his team that was fully evolved. Elder God flooded him. Well, that's very disappointing. Dude couldn't evolve all of his Pokemon? Like, maybe I get Sneasel and Magneton because maybe he couldn't find a Razor Claw or a way to get to Sinnoh. But Haunter and Kadabra? You're telling me that this guy's so much of a fucking chud that he couldn't get anyone to trade these 2 back to him? And that Golbat. Dude, Cyrus, a literal nihilist, was able to evolve a Golbat into a Crobat, and not fucking potential rival over here. I got off topic. After grinding a little bit more, I took on the Pokemon League, the final tribal before becoming the champion of Johto. Here's my final team's stats and movesets before I do that though. Let's do this. First up, the Psychic Magician Will. I'll admit, my plan for this fight did not go well. I thought Plato was going to be able to sweep this team, but unfortunately, after I forgot to use Charge Beam instead of Shadow Ball, Plato got hit by a Confuse Ray, and that wrecked his flow, because then he hit himself, and then got knocked out by Will's second Xatu. Then I kind of panicked. I tried bringing in Stu, but he couldn't amount to much. And at this point, I had no clue what to do, and so I tried sending in Martha too. She fainted. Then, feeling that no one else on my team could really do anything, I brought Elder God out, and first he took care of the Zatus with some Ice Beams, then came out Executor, who only managed to set up a Reflect. Then, Will's Jinx came out, and after a little bit of back and forth, thanks to that Reflect that was set up earlier, Elder God won the fight, a little worse than he started. Last was Will's Slowbro, so I throw out Jasmine to make that Hippo go, and he did with a critical Razor Leaf. Next up is the Poison Ninja Koga. This fight was much smoother. First, Plato took out his Ariados, then Stu took out his Muck after annoyingly leaving it at 1 health, and then Brock Sam took out his Fortress. Then Plato came back out and took out the Fallen Crobat, and Venomoth. Third is Fighting Master Bruno. Plato swept almost all of his team, taking out his Hitmontop before taking a backseat to let Jasmine take out his Onix. Annoyingly, he ended up bringing the snake to 1 HP again. But then, Plato came back out and swept his Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, and even his Machamp with a crit. Lastly is her Dark Majesty, Karen. She led with an Umbreon, while I did with Broxam. He took it out with a fake out to high jump kick combo. Next was her Murkrow, who Elder God arrived to take out with an Ice Beam. But annoyingly, the surviving at 1 health issue came back to haunt for me for a 3rd time. Jeez, I don't know what's up with that. This Elite Four just keeps living. Next was her Houndoom, and I got flashbacks to that one Team Rocket admin, so I brought Broxam out again. But then that Helldog uses Nasty Blot and sweeps half of my team. Then Elder God had enough of this, so he surfed it while surviving a Dark Pulse himself. Next was Karen's Vileplume and Gengar, but they were both taken care of by Plato due to them being poison types. She then gave her speech about strong Pokemon and weak Pokemon. Ma'am, I'm doing a challenge run. With the Elite Four out of the way, the only challenge that I had left was Pokemon Champion Lance. This battle was in fact difficult. I'm just going to show y'all a whole bunch of failed attempts in fast forward while I ramble on about his fight. So first, Lance leads with his Gyarados, and you'd think that'd be an easy fish to take out, but it's not really that simple. Though Plato can take it out with a Charge Beam, it's a Psychic, sometimes he misses the Charge Beam, and other times the Gyarados crits on its Waterfall. But when this happens, I just usually reset, though sometimes Plato also crits on his Charge Beam, allowing him to continue the fight with full health. Next is his Aerodactyl, which is always a pain. At first, my best option was trying to use Martha 2 to Thunder Wave it before then using her Waterfall to try and abuse Paraflinches, but sometimes he flinches Martha 2 first with a Rock Slide, and then guarantees the knockout with Aerial Ace. I then later figured out that Stu was actually the best option for it, because he has a really good amount of physical bulk, but here's the thing, he can take hits, but he can't really hit strongly back either, as his Shadow Claw is the best move against the Aerodactyl. But I had another option, Iron Tail. But even then, it's unreliable, as although it hits hard and even has a chance to lower Aerodactyl's already poor defense, 75 accuracy is a bitch. And then there's Charizard, which I don't really have that much to say because I almost ever saw it. Either Elder God was around to surf it to death, or maybe Stu gets lucky and takes it out. Man. Now, the Dragonites. These fucking suck to fight against. Not only do they hit hard with Dragon Rushes and ruin chances with Thunder Wave, they also just so happen to be unable to kill Jasmine in a timely manner so that I can't utilize her dual scream capabilities. And on top of that, they have Inner Focus, meaning that Broxam can't even have a free term of chip damage. And then, they just also seem to have 101 accuracy when using Blizzard or Thunder. Seriously, I never once saw them miss these moves. Like, Dragon Rush missed quite a few times in all the runs that I did, but they literally never missed Thunder or Blizzard. They can't even be knocked out by an Ice Beam from Elder God. Not even switching his item out for one that boosts ice moves fixed that. Honestly, I don't even think I could beat his level 50 Dragonite even if I was just him versus my entire team. Like, that thing has Outrage, and it just folds everyone in my party like their laundry. After about 20 attempts or so, I decided that I was just not a high enough level to win this fight. After training Elder God and Martha 2, just because they were the most useful in this fight, and going through the Elite Four again, which power leveled Plato up to level 51, I challenged Lance again. Now first was his Gyarados. Plato missed his Charge Beam and then the fish crit with an high reset. Take two. Now first was his Gyarados. Plato took it out with a Charge Beam into Psychic as always. Then his Aerodactyl came out, and although Stu was only able to hit one Iron Tail, Martha 2 was able to finish it off with a Waterfall. Next was Lance's first Dragonite, which Elder God came out to outspeed it and annoyingly failed a one-shot with Ice Beam. But it was frozen solid, so after some full restore shenanigans, out came his second Dragonite. This time, Elder God took it out with a crit. And then was his third Dragonite, who I had Broxam come in for a little bit of chip damage with Fake Out, before then letting Elder God finish it with an Ice Beam. Except he didn't, and he had to take an Outrage, living at only 5 health, before then taking out the drag with an Ice Beam. Last was Lance's Charizard, whose Elder God did massive damage on with Surf, fainted, and then Martha 2 had to come in and take it out with a waterfall, only to be taken out by Dragon Claw. Then Plato came out for the last time, and he finally ended with this fight with one last Psychic, winning me the fight. So here I am now, champion of Johto, but this challenge isn't over yet. The thing is, no one considers a Johto run complete until you go through the entire post-game challenge of the Kanto gym leaders in red. And this is because people love HeartGold and Soul Silver so much that they just insist that you 100% the post-game. Even though that no other fans of other Pokemon in games insist that you do so. Like, no one told me that I needed to beat Steven Stone post-game battle in either of my Enbo runs after I uploaded those videos. Sorry for that little rant, that's just a pet peeve of mine. Though, on an upside, this does mean I get to show off the Pokemon that you can get without the use of a Pokeball in the post-game. I will note though that I'm not going to go over every single gym leader except for Blue, because either everyone else has low-level teams, very few Pokemon, or just are Brock. Alright, first on the list of things to do, I traveled over to Cliff Cave and got the root fossil from smashing rocks. Then at Kanto, I definitely grinded out at Voltorb Flip to get the necessary coins to buy all the rewards here, those being a Mr. Mime, another Eevee, and a Porygon at 3,333, 6,666, and 9,999 coins respectively. I then took a trip to Pewter City Museum, revived each fossil, adding an Aerodactyl, a Kabuto, and an Elite to my collection. Now onto the former champion, Blue. He led with his Executor, which Elder God faced. First, Elder God played a couple of Toxic Spikes, which the tree set up a Trick Spoon, and failed to land a Hypnosis. On their second try, however, they did land. But then they failed to take Elder God out. When Elder God woke up, he finished it with another Ice Beam. Next was Blue's Rhydon for some reason, which Elder God flooded away. And then was Machamp, who Elder God weakened a little bit with a Surf before I brought out Plato, who finished the multi-armed Macho Man with a Psychic. Next was Arcanine, so I brought out Stu, and after he tanked the Flare Blitz, he was unfortunately unable to take out the dog with an Earthquake due to an Intimidate. Then, Blue decided to switch in his Gyarados by predicting an Earthquake. I'm not sure why, he might have been able to take out Stu with another move, but good play nonetheless. Stu managed to tease out his strength, but he was ultimately taken out by the fish, so I sent out Plato, who took it out after using a Charge Beam and a Psychic. The Arcanine then came back out, so I swapped in Martha 2, who was almost taken out by the Arcanine's Dragon Claw, but she didn't hear no bell, so she took it out with her own Dragon Pulse. Last was Blue's Pidgeot, which I decided to bring out Brock Sam to do some more chip damage, but then after Fake Out, the giant bird would use Mirror Move, and then Brock Sam high jump kicked. This allowed him to survive and take out the bird. Neat. Now normally you'd think I'd be talking about Trainer Red right after beating Blue, but there's actually one more Pokemon that I can get before him, and it takes a little bit of work. First, I waited until my clock was in between 1 PM and 2 PM to find Gym Leader Jasmine at the Olivine City restaurant. There I got her phone number, and she tells me that she can battles on Wednesdays at noon if I call her. On the next Wednesday, I called her and flew over to the old fighting dojo in Saffron City and battled her, which I'll describe because it was a pretty fun fight. She led with Metagross and I with Stu. Stu Earthquaked her Metagross, but it only brought it to 1 health as it set up Gravity. After she healed it up, Jasmine then swapped it out and sent out her Empoleon, which got hit by another Earthquake, also surviving at 1 health. Thinking for a moment, I decided to bring out Jasmine, thinking that Jasmine would have her use Surf, but then instead, Jasmine got hit by a Blizzard from Jasmine's Empoleon. Luckily though, he survived and took out her Empoleon with Razor Leaf. Next was her Skarmory, so I sent in Plato, who survived an Ice Slash, and hit back with 2 Charge Beams. She then brought out her Metagross back out, and I figured I'd keep Plato in the field, thinking that he'd just outspeed and take it out with a boosted Shadow Ball. But then the Metagross used Bullet Punch and finish him off. I then sent out Stu again, but he just recreated the same scenario earlier, except Jasmine didn't use a full restore. So when he Shadow Clawed this time, the Pseudo Legend was dead. For some reason, Jasmine decided to send out Bronzong out, and so I kept Stu in because the Gravity's Metagross had set up. But then after surviving an Earthquake at what I can assume is 1 HP, the old Bell landed a Hypnosis and started using Dream Eater. Elder God decided that he wanted to fight, so he came in and took on the turn where Bronzong used Dream Eater and hit a Surf. But the damn thing survived at 1 health again and landed another Hypnosis. I then decided to bring in Brock Sam, who then took it out with a fake out. And then next was Jasmine's Magnezone, but Brock Sam took it out with a single high jump kick. And then lastly was Jasmine's Steelix. Brock Sam landed a high jump kick, bringing the giant snake to yellow health, while he set up a stealth rock for some reason. Brock Sam landed another high jump kick, ending the battle. That was honestly a bit close. If Brock Sam missed a single high jump kick, I think I would have had to try that again. With that requirement done, all that was left to visit Jasmine in her gym. And then I talked to her twice, and she traded me one of her own Steelixes for any one of my Pokemon. I decided to give her the Porygon that I bought from the Celadon Game Corner. And now, with all the Pokemon that I could get before Trainer Red, it was finally time for me to face him. After climbing Mount Silver and definitely, totally, 100% grinding up my Pokemon to level 82, I faced him at its peak. Red led with Pikachu, and I with Stew. The electric rodent landed an Iron Tail, which did a decent chunk of damage, but my guy one-shotted him back with an Earthquake. Next, Trainer Red sent out his Lapras, so I sent Brock Sam in. After a fake out, he landed a high jump kick and took it out. Next was Red's iconic Charizard, so Elder God arrived to knock it out with a couple of surfs. Then was Red's Snorlax, whom I had Martha 2 come out for. Martha 2 Thunder Waved it, but unfortunately, Red's Snorlax used Blizzard, knocking Martha 2 out. But luckily though, Brock Sam was able to take care of the fat lazy bear. Red then sent in Venusaur in next, so I sent in Plato, and he landed a Psychic, got hit and poisoned from a Sludge Bog, but that's okay, he's still alive, and so he landed another Psychic, taking the giant frog out. Last was Red's Blastoise, and I sent Jasmine out because I wanted a cinematic ending to this fight. You know, starter versus starter. But then the smug turtle froze Jasmine with a Blizzard, and brought him to just above half health. He then used Blizzard again, and Jasmine just managed to saw out at 3 HP and used Razor Leaf. But unfortunately, he did not get the kill, and instead died to hail damage. I then sent Brock Sam out one last time, and high jump kicked the Blastoise, making it faint and winning me this final battle, and finally ending the challenge. So, can I beat Pokemon Soul Silver without catching any Pokemon? Yes, and what a run that was. I don't think I've done more research into any of my runs as I did with this one. Changing my entire team midway through the run was also a new thing for me. Still though, it was a lot of fun, even if this is my second least favorite region. Regardless, thanks for watching my video. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends. It really help out a first-time YouTuber like me. Feel free to leave any ideas you have for future videos, but until then, I'm the Corruptest, and I'll see y'all next time. Oh yeah, and then I got a Bulbasaur from Professor Oak and a Trico from Steven Stone. Goodbye.